Hey everybody, it's Devon again from Indigo Art Therapy Studio, here to lead you through another art activity focusing on mindfulness and also incorporating the theme of nature. So today we're going to be creating nature mandalas. So you're going to need a few supplies. You're going to need your wooden circle. You will need your dried flowers and dried leaves. You're going to need 3 spices. We're going to talk about what we're going to do with those spices in just a moment, but you're going to need cloves, cayenne, and turmeric. You're also going to need glue and at least 1 paintbrush. So go ahead and grab those materials and we'll meet back here in just a moment. We're going to be talking a little bit about mandalas. Now, mandala may be a word you've heard before. It may also be a word you have never heard before. So I wanted to take a second to talk a little bit about what mandalas are. You can find mandalas all throughout different types of art. You can find mandalas in different cultures and different societies. And when I say a mandala, mandala means circle in Sanskrit. It's an ancient language. And so anything is a mandala as long as it has a circle form with it. I'm holding up a paper plate. This is a mandala. This wooden circle that we're going to be using today to create our nature mandalas, that is a mandala. So let's look at a couple pictures of mandalas in art. You might notice that some of these mandalas are symmetrical, which means that they look the same on both sides. You might notice that they are not symmetrical. And essentially, anything is a mandala as long as it has that circle form. So we're going to approach this as a way of sort of thinking about nature and thinking about mandalas. Now let's talk about mandalas in nature because we can see a lot of mandalas out in nature. So what am I talking about? So let's think of a couple examples of where we find mandalas out in nature. We see mandalas in the flower shape because it has the circle and then some leaves, some petals radiating out of it. That is a mandala. You can see mandalas whenever you cut into a kiwi, for example, and it creates that circle pattern of the seeds inside of the kiwi. You can find mandalas kind of everywhere. So before we jump into creating our own nature mandala today, I'm wondering if you can think of any examples of mandalas. See if you can name one now. And once you've named one, let's start talking about how we can create our own nature mandala. So we're going to use some supplies that we used in the first activity. We're going to be using our dried flowers. I also have some cool dried leaves and ferns here. So let's take a second and see what we have. So we've got some leaves, got some ferns. So here we have some beautiful greens and yellows. I've got a few more of these. We've got some ferns here, some beautiful pressed daisies, got some pressed flowers, and some more flowers. So I'm really excited to use those. And the last minute, literally just a few minutes ago, I decided let's take this a little bit step further. So we are going to be making our own paints before we start creating our mandalas. So how can we make our own paints? So you can create paint using spices. So I have chosen a few spices to use today. You can use these spices or you can sort of experiment with your own and see what colors they create. Highly recommend using turmeric spice. It's going to create a really vibrant orange color. I have also chosen to use cayenne pepper. This is very spicy, so we're going to keep this out of our eyes and nose and mouth, but it can create a really nice red color. And I have also chosen to use nutmeg. I love how nutmeg smells. It kind of reminds me of the holidays, and it creates a nice brown color that'll sort of remind us maybe a little bit of the earth. So let's create our spice painting. So I am going to grab my glue. I have clear glue. You might have white glue. Either works because the cool thing about white glue is it dries clear and it will not affect the color of the paint that you create. So I'm going to be using this plate to mix 3 colors for my spice painting. So I have not used, let's see if you can see that, there we go. So I haven't used too much, it's about the size of a dime. My strategy whenever it comes to using art supplies is you can always add more, but you can't ever take away. So if you find that you want more of any color or more glue for any paint color, you can always add more. So I've started with a dime. If I decided I want more, I could use that. So I'm just going to actually just shake some spice onto my glue. Just enough so that it's coated. Remember, you can always add more if the color isn't vibrant enough. So I've started with cayenne, and I'm going to take my brush, and if you notice, the cayenne is just kind of sitting on top of the glue, so we're just going to mix it. So we're just going to very slowly mix it, and you see, you get a really beautiful kind of red-orange color. And if you smell it, you can smell it's a little bit spicy. So let's see. I'm going to bring you on a journey of creating the rest of these colors as well. So the next one is turmeric. Turmeric is my all-time favorite. Oh, this hasn't even been opened yet. Brand new turmeric. Turmeric is my all-time favorite spice to use with spice painting, just because the color is so vibrant. Here we go. So I've taken the top off. I want to make sure that I put my shaky cap back on, and I'm going to shake, 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 shake. One more. There we go. So remember, we just need to cover it, and if we don't like how vibrant the color is, we can always add more. So I'm going to take another brush. If you only have one, you can wash your brush, and has created this really beautiful natural orange yellow color here. So I've got one more. I'm going to be using nutmeg. And if you have time and you're curious, you can play around with the different colors you can get from different spices as well. In the past, I've used cinnamon, I've used cloves. So really, if you have anything hanging around your cabinet that you're excited to use, you can use that as well. Okay. And you might end up with a little bit of spice painting on your arm like I just did, and that is okay. Okay, so let's check out these 3 really beautiful natural colors that we have here. I'm going to be using this in a moment. I'm going to put it over to the side because we are going to create our nature mandala now. I'm going to use the spice painting sort of as a last minute addition to add some flair to my mandala. So I'm going to start with these flowers that I have. And just as there is no wrong way to create art, there is no wrong way to create your mandala. For today's activity and for what I want to create, I'm going to focus on creating a pattern in my mandala. But if you notice, if you remember, I said at the beginning of our video that mandalas don't have to have patterns. So this one will, but yours does not have to. The purpose of this mandala is just to sort of get creative and to really pay attention to the choices that you're making with this mandala. Are you choosing the colors that you want? Why are you choosing these colors? How do these different materials feel? Are you smelling anything? With the spice painting, you might be smelling something. So really practicing those mindfulness skills about things that you are experiencing in the moment. So I'm going to move our camera down so that we can create these mandalas together. So I am going to start by choosing these flowers, and I'm going to place them, there you go. So I'm going to start by creating a pattern with these flowers. Now I'm not going to use my glue until the very end because I like the idea of being able to move these materials around. So I'm going to place things where I think I want them, and then I know that if I don't want them somewhere, I can move them before I fully commit and before I glue things down. Like I said, mandalas don't need to be symmetrical, but I think I would like mine to be symmetrical today. So remember, symmetry is when one side is the same as the other. So I know this is symmetrical because I have a pink flower on the top and a pink flower on the bottom. I have a purple flower on this side and a purple flower on this side, and I've got my yellow flowers here. So I am going to grab 2 more teal flowers and put them down here. I'm really liking how this is looking, but I would like to add some greens. So I'm going to grab my ferns and my leaves, and I am going to go ahead and open this up. There we go. So if you remember from the first activity, these can be really delicate. So we don't need to rush through. We can really take our time. And a lot of mandalas start from the center and they radiate out. Think about the inside of a kiwi, like we were talking about with that first example, how the core, the center of the kiwi, is one thing, and then it radiates out with the seeds. So I'm going to focus on that theme, and I'm going to keep really a lot of focus on this center. So I am creating my center right in the middle of my wooden circle. And I'm playing around with how these nature materials are radiating out. So I'm really liking how this is sort of layered. I've layered the leaves on top of these leaves. And I would like to add a few more of these leaves because I think they're pretty neat. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these now. I think my very favorite are these ferns because they're so intricate. Like there's so many little details that I think I could spend a couple minutes at least sort of just observing how this looks. There we go. And what else? I'm liking these guys, these little leaves. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to place them on the outside here. Okay. And because I have these and I haven't used them yet and I've been really excited to use them, I'm going to grab them as well. So I have this really neat sort of textured grass that I'm going to put here and here. There we go. All right, so let me check back in with everybody. So we have laid out sort of the groundwork for our nature mandala. Now remember, we haven't glued anything on yet, so take a few minutes, move some things around, see how you feel about your mandala as you kind of switch these things around. Maybe you would like to play around with the colors. Maybe you'd like to play around with moving something that was on the inside on the outside. That's the beauty of not having glued anything down yet. So once you are at the point that you're ready to glue things down, we're going to do that right now. So you can come along on that journey with me. And we are going to start gluing these things down. If you are someone that doesn't like getting glue on their fingers, you can also put glue on your paper plate, and you can use a paintbrush actually to apply this glue. So don't feel like you have to do anything that feels uncomfortable to you. There we go. And remember that this glue is going to dry clear. So it is okay that you see your glue while you're gluing these things down. It will dry clear and you will be okay. All right, so before we put the finishing touches on this, let's make sure that I glued everything. Everyone drum roll. All right, whoop, okay. I do that to make sure that I didn't forget anything. So I am really liking how this mandala looks right now, and I'm really excited that I have these paints that I made. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush and add some designs however I want on here. Now, because we used natural materials, because we used spices for our spice painting, the colors are going to be a little bit different, right? So they might not be as like bright, and you might notice that these are really textured. You can see the clumps of the spices on here, but that's kind of the fun of something like this, right? Is that we have used something straight from nature. The glue might not be straight from nature, but the spices are from nature, and we are creating art from it. And I think that is just like, that's just really cool. So, like I said, I am adding some shapes, some designs to my mandala, sort of wherever I'm feeling like it needs it. So I might add some circles with my cloves. I'm noticing that my clove color is a little chunky, and that's okay. This is an opportunity for us to sort of explore with texture as well. And I'm really smelling the cloves right now. So this is a good, fun way for us to practice mindfulness. We can tap into our 5 senses, and we can really focus on the colors that we're using and the smells that we're experiencing as well. All right, so I'm really liking how the yellow on my brush for the turmeric is kind of looking a lot like the yellow for this flower, so I might choose to highlight that a little bit. There we go. All right. So you might decide that you want to spend a little bit more time working on your nature mandala, and I really encourage you to do so. All the supplies that I've used I got online or from a craft store, but I would encourage you to see maybe if there are some things that you can grab from outside that you can add to your mandala. Maybe there's a pretty flower in your backyard that you could pick and add the petals to this. Maybe you can grab some grass. A mandala is a really great way for us to sort of practice mindfulness, to reflect on the things in nature that make us feel calm. And the bonus about the spices is that it can be a really cool thing to smell as well. So like I said, there is no wrong way to create art. There's no wrong way to create a mandala. You might notice that I started off with the idea of having my mandala be symmetrical, but it's not exactly, and that's okay. I think that this is a really great opportunity not only to explore with our senses, to focus on how materials feel on our fingers, how they smell, what the colors look like. It's also an opportunity for us to find beauty in things that aren't necessarily how we expected them to be. I had approached this hoping that things would be symmetrical and perfectly balanced, and they are not. And I can still find a lot of beauty in this. So I hope you had fun creating nature mandalas, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.